The answer to the question of whether an angelfish and discus fish can live together requires more than just some brief explanation. The two species need tank mates, so their lives will not be boring. But there's even more that goes into it for you or any incoming hobbyists who want a better understanding on how these two beautiful but complicated creatures interact with each other in tanks around the world. The idea of keeping two different fish species together may sound like an odd mix to many people. But it can actually work out surprisingly well. Both types have the same origins and tend to live in similar environments so long as they are both given space for growth into adulthood. View post: Angelfish and discus fish can live together. The angelfish is a perfect match for the discus fish. Not only do they have different preferences when it comes to water quality, but together these two peaceful species can create fascinating harmony in an aquarium. The natural tendency of both types not move too quickly means that there needs be another member present who will spice things up by speeding around pipes and channels at high speed. This would give them something fun during their day while still allowing time spent relaxing on rocks or hiding among plants, without fear from other tankmates anxious about competition over food supplies, or lack thereof. The differences between two fish are often subtle. For example, one may be more active than the other, or have a different temperament depending on where they live and what type of aquarium hobbyist owns them. Angelfish and discus fish are two very different types of aquatic creatures, which can live together in an aquarium. But there's always the chance that they will conflict with one another. If you want to keep these guys happy, it is important for them not only have plenty room, but also clean water. See more. Of the two species that can be found in this article, you may not know which is more suitable for your needs. However, with some investigation on both sides and careful consideration of what each has to offer, it'll become clear which one suits best as a pet or companion animal. Angelfish and discus fish requirements. So, you want to house two different types of fish in the same tank? That sounds like a great idea. Before I let your angels swim around together without knowing what kind they are, or how much space there is for them all over here, and if these aquariums can even be shared, please take this quick compatibility test. This article will speak to the two major types of angelfish, those that live in saltwater and freshwater dwellers. With this knowledge, you should already have a good idea about how best for your goal is not just which type, but also where they would fit into an aquarium setup with other fish, or if keeping them separate from one another at all makes sense based on their different needs. You observe that the freshwater angelfish thrive well in soft water with a hardness of 0 to 3 dH, and at temperatures ranging from 27 to 32 degrees Celsius. While discus fish are more comfortable living near hard waters containing deposits up to 1+. You realize it would be difficult trying keep both types happy, so you decide put one tank as either reverse osmosis or ocean tank style. This way they can live happily without echoing each other's needs. The angelfish and discus fish can live in the same tank as mates due to their compatible aquarium parameters. These two types of freshwater tropicals require a pH range from 6 to 7. Water that is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, with 0–1 degree Celsius temperature fluctuations, or 24*GH for breeding purposes, while also needing soft, or very slightly hard surfaces within their living spaces, so they don't scratch themselves against anything when moving around too much during daytime hours, which will cause injury leading up towards possible infection depending on severity. These requirements make it clear why these particular species would do well alongside one another even if some were more hesitant than others about meeting. Angelfish and discus fish temperament. The angelfish and discus fish are likely to get into an aggressive fight when kept in the same aquarium. The angel becomes nippy, sometimes even attacking its own kind or others that it sees as a threat, while males of this species may become territorial and violent towards other members within their category males. So you're looking to add some cichlids, but don't know which type is right for your tank? Well, It turns out there are actually two types of this fish. One common factor that we should all remember about them, they can be both aggressive and difficult. The only reason why these fish are so popular with aquarium enthusiasts is because of their unique appearance and wild nature. Other types of similar-looking freshwater creatures can't stand being around them for too long, which makes it impossible to keep all sorts in one tank. Unlike many other types of fish, discus are a little bit reserved and shy. When they're taking care their young it'll turn aggressive, but most aquarists keep them separate to control this aggression, because if anything happens in your tank then only one will be caught with its mouth full. Keeping angelfish and discus fish together when introducing the angelfish to a discus fish. There are some important steps that you must take. First off is ensuring your tank has enough space for both of them. This can be tricky since they're usually territorial and aggressive toward other similarly sized species in small tanks, so it's best if one gets bigger than what was originally planned or bought. An additional. Larger aquariums work better, because once again control their temperament with larger spaces, especially when trying introduce two different kinds at once. In order to ensure a peaceful coexistence between these two species, change or move all decorations in your tank so they are not territorial. The angelfish is the most aggressive and thus has been found time after time again as being among one of those least likely candidates for compatibility with other tanks. Some people find that when they add a new fish to their tank, the previous inhabitant will no longer be visible. This could mean that she has moved on and created his or her own territory somewhere else in your establishment's ecosystem. If you notice this happening with one of yours, then don't worry, because it is perfectly normal for these types of behaviors from an angelfish as long as there are enough discus floridian species available which can coexist peacefully despite being very different species themselves, both highly aggressive. To reduce the aggression of your angelfish, you can add more fish, or eliminate it by feeding them well before adding discus to tank. Furthermore, if they are not receiving enough hiding places, then create perfect hiding spots with rocks and plants, so that these base silver eel do not feel threatened while exploring their new home in an aquarium setup made up only from themselves. Discus and angelfish acclimation. Introducing your discus fish to the aquarium can be a stressful experience. But there are ways for you to reduce their physical stress. One of these methods is acclimatization, and it'll play an important role in making sure that they're comfortable with life inside its home soon enough. To lower your risk of stereo reception issues, you may want to turn off all lights in the room where you're going to have an aquarium. This will reduce light pollution and make it easier on both wired and wireless networking equipment that might be installed nearby. When it's time to put your fish in the tank, take their bag and place them with their discus partner for about 15 minutes. In this short duration of time, just long enough so that they can acclimate, both saltwater species will adjust quickly without any problems or stress. Next, open up the bag and let in some tank water. After about 5 minutes have passed, a little more each time, until you've filled it completely with fresh H2O from your aquatic too. In this next step, we're going to totalize half of what was originally added, so make sure not only do I get my share, but also any other fish or creatures that might want their turn at bat too. For those readers who are wondering, yes, there will always come down something called feces, which is essentially just poop dragon's breath effect. In order to release your fish into the tank, you'll need a net. Fill up an aquarium with water until it is full and then carefully remove discus from bag using gentle touch so as not damage its membrane-based respiratory system, which can cause illness or death if handled incorrectly. You'll need to watch out for any aggressive behavior from your angelfish while it's confined. So use a spaghetti strainer or divider if necessary. It should be able to explore the rest of its new home after 4 hours are up. Final thought: the angelfish and discus fish can live together although some precautionary measures need to be put in place. Apart from that, the two species share a lot of similarities, including how they thrive under nearly similar conditions with regards to water temperature 75 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. pH level, or hardness factor, which is considered extremely soft at about 3 continents, but not too high for either one respectively. Owners of the angelfish will be happy to know that their pet is peaceful and docile when not breeding or feeding, but can resort to being aggressive and/or territorial. Even though discus fish may seem calm, they sometimes become angry, just like an angel if it's raising young in its caretaking role. The two types of fish that make up this perfect match are both cichlids, which means they have almost similar characteristics. When keeping them together, ensure you have a large enough tank, with plenty plants, to cover the ground and hiding spots for your new friend. The angelfish and discus fish are two different types that need to live together in order for them both survive. You can keep the right tank parameters at their optimal level by doing frequent water changes, but make sure you have a tight lid on top of it, because these creatures do prefer living within clean environments, where there's little or none algae growth.